Mike, tell me just exactly how you got started in purebred dogs in the first place.
Well, I never had a dog in my life, and when I was 14, my parents decided that they would get me a dog for my birthday, and they thought a beagle would be a nice breed for me. But one night my father come home from working late and saw the movie Goodbye My Lady about Basenjis, and they decided to get me one of those. They looked around. I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and found a litter locally, and the people wanted $200 for a so-called show dog and $150 for a pet, but they said they'd give us a great deal and give us $50 off for the show dog if we showed it. So my father couldn't pass up a great deal, so that's how I got started.
So your parents started taking you to the shows? I mean, you were still too young
to the shows with Mr. Walker, who I got the bitch from, and it was a rough road at first and got real discouraged, and my father said, well, 2 more shows and that's it. And finally Doris Weir gave us a major, and the next 5 out of 7 we finished her, and we were on our way.
Is that right? Well, that's still a pretty good start for somebody in their first dog. You did all the handling?
I did all the handling.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need some humble pie, and I go back and look at the video of that first show. And
oh, you still have it, though?
Yeah.
Gee, it ought to be...
She made a fool of me, but...
Hey, we'll have to start somewhere.
We got started that way.
Yeah. You had no thoughts about a Basenji before then?
No, we had no idea what a dog show was or what a Basenji was until we saw the movie.
Boy, that business of you can buy this one if you'll show it sure hooks a lot of people, doesn't it?
Yeah, then when they get that first blue ribbon, that hooks them even more.
Yeah. So how many Basenjis have you finished over the years?
Well, that bitch produced 23 champions.
Did she really?
2 best in show winners and 6 group winners.
Now that's your very first dog did that?
Yes, I was very lucky. Obviously, we didn't know what we were getting, and they didn't know what they were selling.
Well, it's just good that you got it instead of some complete pet home.
Right. How many? I don't know. Maybe we finish 10 or 15 a year, and I've been doing it since 1966 or 67.
Ooh, 10 or 15 a year since then. I won't do the math, but that's a bunch of dogs. Yeah, best in show winners, specialty winners, all that.
Right.
Yeah. You finished a little what was it? A little bitch last fall that had some significance. Tell me about that.
That was the first brindle Basenji to finish her championship. She was 7 months and 2 days old, and the first new African blooded dog to finish.
At 7 months, she finished?
Right.
Oh. Has she held up well, or is she?
She seems to be doing real well. I have her with some nice people in Oklahoma, and I'm just letting her grow up. She's only a year now, and we're just going to start putting her in the specials ring.
What is the significance of the collar of that dog, though? I mean, how can that be the first one ever to do that?
The color had never been approved. We hadn't had any in the United States. There was one in England a long time ago, but the color was never approved there. Also, we just never had the gene. We went and brought some of the brindles back from the Belgium Congo or Zaire in 1987. AKC approved putting those dogs into the stud book in November, December of '89.
Okay, let's back up. What on earth ever... You physically went to the Belgian Congo.
Right.
Why?
Why? As like a lot of other breeds, we had quite a few health problems. The reason we had quite a few health problems, we feel, is a very small gene pool of 6 to 8 dogs in the beginning. And after all this breeding, we come up with some health problems and felt that we needed some new blood. We wanted to go see the breed in its natural habitat, and the main reason was not to bring the brindle color back, but it was in our minds that we hoped that we might find some. No one had gone from the United States ever to import dogs out of Africa, Basenjis, and the last people to go from England were there in 1959.
Wow. Long time.
So it was a health problem, and just to increase the gene pool and to see what we might find.
Well, tell me about it. What did you find? I mean, this wasn't, you weren't in downtown.
No, we flew into Kinshasa, which is the capital of Zaire. The original Basenjis came from the Sudan. The Sudan, in 1987, when we went, was in a civil war, so we couldn't get a visa to go to Sudan. So we went as far north in Zaire that we could, to within 15 or 20 kilometers of the border, so we could go to where the original Basenjis were brought back from. And that was very deep into the bush, and the only people that live there are the Pygmies and the Azandi tribes.
Now, is this something that you tell me about this trip, and I picture National Geographic. Is that an accurate portrayal of the natives and their weird dress and spears and all?
Pretty much so. The people pretty much own what they wore on their back. Very poor people. No electricity, no running water. They lived in grass reed huts and clay huts, and pretty much where when we come back home we kiss the ground and thank God what we had here, because there's nothing like paved roads or TV or...
Well, don't take this wrong, but you never really struck me as the kind to go rough it like that. What
Well, I've been trying to talk my wife into going, and she won't go because there's no outhouses along the road. You sort of took your roll of toilet paper into the woods and did your business, and that's about how it was.
How long were you gone?
We left on February 11th, I think, and got back about the 28th of February. We left right after the garden because the rainy season started soon after that, and we wanted to get in before the rainy season.
So you did some research before
Right.
you ever left town, I
Right.
see. Yeah. Well, tell me about the dogs you saw there. Good shape, good health?
They lacked a lot of nutrition, and they had a lot of parasites. They had fleas, ticks, and worms, and so in a lot of cases they were in very bad health. They also had a lot of scars from fighting with each other. It was a case where the good quality tough dog would survive, and the ones that weren't, most of them didn't.
I guess so, but I'm having trouble picturing somebody planning line breedings when they live in a grass hut and no bathroom. I mean, these were consistent type
I think
and purebred?
nature took its course. A good dog that survived would breed the bitches. I mean, it would be... there was not much planning as far as...
See, I can understand the strong shall survive. I understand that concept completely. What I don't understand is, were there any other dogs around of other breeds? I mean, why weren't these lines all mixed up?
No, we saw no other dogs. I saw one ridgeback when I got towards a mission. But when you got deep into the bush, there were no other breeds whatsoever. Sometime when you got towards a mission where it was more a highly populated area, you would see where maybe the missionaries maybe brought a fox terrier in or a German shepherd, and you would say, well, that's not a Basenji. You would see an influx of another breed. But when you got deeper into the bush, you could see that there was absolutely no other breeds around. So obviously there were no other accidental breedings per se.
Wow. So this is just a dog that actually just evolved there, then, like the elephant and the giraffe and the whatever else.
Right. The natives used it for hunting, anything that they could find to hunt. They had very small antelope, they had monkeys, reed rats, whatever. As much as a companion, they also used it as a hunting animal.
Were they pet-like in temperament? Temperament now. What was the temperament like?
Most of the temperaments were very good. There would be some dogs that would be standoffish that we could never get close to. But in most cases, the dogs would come right up to us and wag their tail, and there wouldn't be a problem. Even more so friendly there than some of the dogs we see here in the breed ring today.
Really? Did the kids play with the puppies, or
The kids played with the puppies. We ended up bringing mostly puppies back because we didn't feel it was fair, and we didn't know how an older dog, a 14-hour flight in an airline crate and with a lead, we didn't think that they would adjust real well.
So how many did you bring back? Sheer numbers.
In 1987, John Kirby and I brought 7 Basenjis back. The year later, John Kirby, Damara Bolte, and Stan Carter went and brought back another 7, and they brought 1 bitch back in whelp that produced 6 puppies.
So normally I wouldn't ask a person what they paid for something, but what did you pay for these dogs?
1 American dollar equaled 87 Zaire dollars. We traded some money. We traded Bic lighters and red bandanas and costume jewelry to the Azandis and the Pygmies for the dogs. The amount of money we paid for the dogs was minimal. What cost us all the money was the trip.
Well, that brings up a good point. Did you get over there and then hire a guide, or?
No, we lined up a hunting safari in advance. A hunting safari that usually have their people hunt elephant and bongo, which is a rare antelope in Africa. And there was a moratorium on hunting at the time, so we got this hunting safari. They were sitting there not doing anything anyway, so they decided to take us on a dog hunt.
Did they believe you when you said you wanted to go hunt dogs?
They were skeptical at first, but as we went along, the guides somewhat got an eye for the dog and can say, "Oh, not a good ear set, not a curly tail," and he starting to got an eye for the dogs.
Well, tell me, did these pygmies have a breed standard that they
No, that's
discuss?
what people say. Did you get a pedigree? I said they didn't have papers and pencils. We didn't get a pedigree.
In this country, trying to envision that environment is just tough.
It's totally amazing what we saw. I don't think there's many breeds in the world where you can go to that breed's natural habitat and see it in the wild, like you can, or like we did with the Basenji.
No, that's fascinating. The fact that you were trading Bic lighters for them.
We had to show them how to use the Bic lighters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm sure when they ran out of juice, they probably stuck voodoo pins in.
Well, that explains your back pain, doesn't it? Mike, you mentioned a moment ago about people asking you for pedigrees and what have you on these dogs, and you mentioned that these people didn't have pen and paper, let alone pedigrees. But yet, you brought the dogs back. They are, in fact, registered with the American Kennel Club, and you're showing their offspring. Now, I got a little problem here. I imported a Norwich bitch from Denmark a couple years ago, and it took me a solid year to get the paperwork straightened out. Now, and it had a pedigree and from the Danish Kennel Club and the whole bit. Now, how on earth did you get these no ancestry dogs registered?
Well, we presented it to the AKC in 1989. We showed them, in all cases with the puppies, you could tell them who the mother was because the puppies would be with the mother. We also showed them surrounding areas, the dogs in those surrounding areas, and they were all Basenjis. So we didn't know exactly which Basenji it was, but it obviously was a Basenji. I mean, in the beginning, when they brought the first Basenjis here, they didn't know the parentage, or in a lot of breeds. Even though there was a lot of reasons why the AKC did it this way. We showed to them the health reasons that we felt that 70 or 80% of our breeding stock had. As a breed, if it continued the way it was, could have died out. Not to say that we saved the breed per se, but originally the American Kennel Club said, well, why don't you breed 5 generations? Well, we showed to them that if you take these original 13 dogs and breed them once, you would get 5 to 7 puppies out of each litter. Okay, you take that first generation and you breed those 5 or 7 times.